change your view of Patrick?
I still think he is the best quarterback in the league. I still think he's could become the GOAT. Like, he could challenge Brady one day, but obviously that slows down. And Nick has shown us, and they're accurate, all these graphics over the course of the season and the playoffs of Mahomes' greatness in the playoffs. But interestingly, he hasn't been, his numbers aren't great necessarily in the Super Bowls. And here they are compared to Brady. And his numbers are way behind the record. We'll see where that goes, because Brady was 3-2 at one point. Completion percentage, fine. Brady threw for far more yards, but look at the touchdown to interception. That's the thing where Brady, I mean, he's already in half the Super Bowls got more interceptions than Brady had, and then the passer rating, Brady has a significant advantage. So that's where we're at right now, and that's obviously an advantage for Brady. The second thing for me is this, and the last two seasons, Mahomes has not been great individually, at least statistically, right? So he's hung his hat on winning. Like, the reason we've still been like, man, he's the best, because he won last year in the Super Bowl when they didn't have a great regular season. And this year it looked like they still got to the Super Bowl, even though he didn't win. My thing, Nick, is like, okay, now that you didn't win it, we got to start seeing the individual numbers again.
Stats matter more.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I want to start seeing, like, I still think he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
But for basically his entire career as a starter, because he came out of the box with 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, I don't think that's really been a debate. And that's including when Brady was still in the league and Rodgers. I still felt like, man, Mahomes is the best. Now, I honestly think there can be a debate if he doesn't start putting up great numbers again.
All right, so so to me, this pops the bubble of invincibility.
Yeah.
And he didn't have invincibility his whole career. He really only had it
last few years.
Really just this year. Because last year they lost a bunch.
After they won.
You know what I mean? He had won 2 Super Bowls, but only one in the previous 3 years. And then the postseason games, and winning the Super Bowl, and this year the way they set the record for most fourth quarter comebacks in NFL history this year, Patrick Mahomes. So that's now popped by this. To me, nothing else changes. Now, I was hoping something was going to change super positively in the legacy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so obviously, I agree with what Bruce said on the legacy stuff almost to a T. I think anybody sitting on television today and saying, well, wash our hands of any potential GOAT conversation I think that's ridiculous, because we don't know. If his next 7 years, he simply does exactly what he did his first 7 years, then there won't be a GOAT conversation. People are right. It'll just be him and everyone will agree. So we don't know what it's going to be like. What I will not abide is anybody arguing that because of his performance in the Super Bowl, Joe, Lamar, or Josh jump him, because those guys all were denied the chance to have a bad Super Bowl by losing the AFC Championship games to Patrick. So if somebody wants to say, oddly, listen, I think Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in football, I would have less of a problem with that than if somebody argued for any of the other 3 AFC quarterbacks.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this. There's a lot that I really want to unpack here. And first off, Patrick Mahomes never had invincibility to me. So this whole invincibility, that bubble's been popped. Like, I've been trying to bang that drum all season long. And as you guys know, I talk about this very freely. Like, I take a ton of, hate from it, because people say that I'm just being a hater when I'm just speaking reality. And now Nick has finally come along and said that invincibility bubble has popped. And the truth is nothing has changed for me in this Super Bowl, because who I think Patrick Mahomes is just continued to be confirmed. He's an all-time great talent, absolutely special, but imperfect. And it's just that simple. Everybody was trying to make Patrick Mahomes out to be this mythological creature, right? This whole idea that he is just pure perfection in the playoffs. I mean, that's all season long. That's all Kansas City Chiefs fans kept saying. is, oh, it doesn't matter, regular season, just wait until these playoffs. You're a doubter, this is what Mahomes does. And then you have a game like this, which Patrick Mahomes has done. I mean, like, Patrick Mahomes has not had these amazing Super Bowls. I mean, he just hasn't. I mean, we can see, and I'm not even interested in comparing him to Tom Brady, but I do want to unpack that a little bit more. I mean, Jalen Hurts has this beat right now. Obviously in less Super Bowls, but still 2 Super Bowls. 2 Super Bowls is not like a small sample size. I mean, it's not a large sample size, but it's not a small it's a medium sample size. 2 Super Bowls is 2 Super Bowls. I mean, it's the second most Super Bowls under Mahomes right now, I think, for active quarterbacks. Maybe I guess Russell Wilson as well. I might be missing another quarterback. But it's a legit sample size. And again, I'm not trying to argue that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Mahomes either. I'm just saying, like, right, that touchdown to interception ratio is for real, 21-6. And not to mention 2 of those touchdowns were it was garbage. I mean, Nick Sirianni was getting a Gatorade shower when Mahomes scored those 2 touchdowns. And that passer rating even got boosted a little bit too. Make no mistake about that. But again, like, I'm not going to go off on him, but there are a few things that I do want to highlight in this. And then I want to talk about what the loss means for Mahomes, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think I think it's necessary to still unpack everything that we saw. I mean, some of these are I mean, it's pretty devastating. Mahomes, 17 passing yards were his fewest in a first quarter this season. He was averaging 57 entering the game. The Chiefs had 14 yards on their first 5 drives, the fewest yards they've had on their first 5 drives of any game started by Mahomes, playoffs or regular season. Mahomes threw his first postseason pick 6. Mahomes became the first quarterback in Super Bowl history to take consecutive sacks before throwing a pick 6 in a span of 3 plays. For the first time in his career, Mahomes threw 2 interceptions in the first half of a playoff game. Mahomes' 43% completion percentage in the first half was the second lowest rate in a first half in his career, better than only his 42% completion percentage versus the Chargers in Week 2 of 2020. Mahomes finished the first half with 33 passing yards, the fewest he's had in the first half of any game in his career. Mahomes was 1 for 6 with 2 interceptions on passes more than 5 air yards. He was 14 of 22 with a touchdown on those throws for his career in the postseason prior to Sunday. He became the second quarterback in Super Bowl history to throw an interception on consecutive pass attempts. Greg Morton did it twice. First with the Dallas Cowboys and then with the Denver Broncos. I mean, that's just crazy. The Chiefs didn't cross midfield until their 10th drive, snapping a 9-drive streak, the longest by any team in Super Bowl history. The Chiefs' stretch of 9 possessions without scoring was their longest with Mahomes starting regular season or playoffs. Mahomes was sacked 6 times, the most he's taken in any game of his career, regular season or playoffs. Mahomes is the second quarterback in Super Bowl history to take 6 sacks against 4 or fewer pass rushers. Patrick Mahomes had 42 dropbacks without being blitzed, the second most in Super Bowl history. A starting quarterback faced 0 blitzes in Super Bowl 5 times previously. Mahomes was 3 for 8 for 43 yards with a touchdown and interception while under pressure. I mean, that's the real deal. That's the real deal. And the reality is that when you have stats like that, and there's plenty of others, I mean, again, just even the touchdown to interception ratio that we see, like, when you're talking about having the GOAT conversation, which again, I'm largely not that interested in having, but I do want to unpack this, and I'm gonna say things that I think Kansas City Chiefs fans will like, at least I think, and Mahomes fans will like. But everything's used against you, and everything's used for you. Like, that's what I always talk about when we're talking about having GOAT conversations. Like, you are held under a microscope. That's the reality. That's how it works. Tom Brady himself was held back because of a couple of his earlier Super Bowls and because of having Bill Belichick as his head coach. People really fail to realize that it wasn't really until Tom Brady won with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when people said, that's a wrap, he's the GOAT. Like, there was still, like, legitimate debate There was still like real conversation about, oh, is he just a system quarterback? How much does Bill Belichick deserve? How much credit does Bill Belichick deserve? You know, all that. Those were real foundational conversations. It was not just a rap. Then he won with Tampa, and then everyone was like, yeah, he's the GOAT. He's the best. He's amazing. He's unreal. Because then he won that first year. You know, and Bill Belichick did nothing, especially as the years went on and Bill Belichick did less and less and less. It was like, okay, he's definitely the GOAT. And again, he beat also Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, like, which has only aged even more for him, considering that Patrick Mahomes has won as he did. So those things matter. You know, we see it with LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. You know, I mean, we just do. Everyone talks about LeBron, you know, Michael Jordan never losing, LeBron James losing a lot, but still going a lot. You know, being down, getting swept, like all that stuff gets used against LeBron. And fair or foul, it is. It's just part of the conversation. And like I said, that's why I'm not going to go out and make some video and explain why I think Tom Brady is the GOAT and Patrick Mahomes is not. You know, like I really don't care. And that was just an example. I'm not even saying that's necessarily my opinion. But here's the thing that drives me crazy about these conversations. Like, this is what's insane to me. And Nick kind of just set me up, but also Colin Cowherd, First Take, you know, Stephen A., all these guys. And I pushed back against this 3P. And again, I got a lot of heat. And now the fact that they lost and I said that it wouldn't change anything for me only bolsters my opinion of, like, that's the right opinion. Because if he won on Sunday, I mean, let's just say it was an ugly game and Patrick Mahomes didn't play particularly well. He threw for 180 yards, you know, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, you know, a passer rating of 80, but that defense was locked down. A couple fumbles off of, you know, Hurts, right? A.J. Brown fumbles. Saquon Barkley can't run, right? It's just Jalen Hurts just doesn't play good. And they come away with the win. And then the Kansas City Chiefs would have 3-peated. And then people were saying that would have solidified Patrick Mahomes as the GOAT. You know, Nick Wright was ready to say that this is the greatest team in the history of the NFL. And that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. He the first ever to 3-peat. You know, Colin Cowherd said it was inevitable. Stephen A. Smith was saying, you know, if he 3-peats, it's a wrap. He's the GOAT. And now that he loses, people are like, oh, okay, he's not the GOAT. Stephen A. comes out and says he's not the GOAT. Patrick Mahomes. Colin Cowherd comes out and is like, we need to tap the brakes with the comparisons to Tom Brady. And it's like, dude, you were comparing him to MJ. You called him the MJ of the NFL. And now Nick Wright is saying nothing changes, which doesn't make sense. Nothing changes for me because him 3-peating wasn't going to bolster. Because for me, for his, you know, GOAT resume. Because I already told you, his entire career to me is a dynasty. So whether he wins a Super Bowl this past year or just wins next year or the year after, the 3-peat itself just would not matter to me. And again, that helps Patrick Mahomes' case. So him losing this game didn't do anything for me now to bring him down, but also winning wouldn't have elevated him. But yet Nick Wright created an asymmetrical moment here where if he won, he was the GOAT, unbelievable, you know, Kansas City Chiefs, greatest team of all time. And now with a loss, he's saying it doesn't change anything. He says it popped the invincibility, you know, bubble, but nothing else has changed. Like, that doesn't actually make sense then. You can't say that a win would have made him the GOAT, but now a loss is just, nothing. Especially a loss as bad as this one, which was a historic loss. Like, Tom Brady's never had this on his resume. That's a real thing. If we were saying that a 3-peat is on his resume, well, then having 2 massive losses with awful performances. And again, you can't just say it's because of the defense. You just can't. It just doesn't work that way. Jalen Hurts played against the Kansas City Chiefs, which were a top defense in the NFL. He didn't look like this. And if you say, well, his O-line or something, like, again, so when Patrick Mahomes plays great and wins, you don't give any credit to the roster, but then when he loses, you want to point fingers. It can't work that way. It just can't. So it's just, I don't know. It's, in a way, I'm curious to see how Kansas City Chiefs fans reconcile with this in terms of this whole invincibility. I already see them trying to rip Andy Reid and rip the play calling and this and that. And it's just like, Patrick Mahomes did not play great, but he also just played a better team. And the reality is like all these other Super Bowls and all of these other playoff games, like that's why like Nick Wright is saying like against the Bengals and the Bills and the Ravens, like the Kansas City Chiefs were the better team because they had the better coaching staff. They were more prepared. They were ready for the moment. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs just consistently outplayed those teams. Either their offense was massively superior or their defense was shut down. Again, holding the Baltimore Ravens to 17 points, and that offense was the best offense in the NFL. Like, it was collective efforts. Collective efforts. With some great plays by Patrick Mahomes, of course. But we just can't pick and choose when we want this to be a team game. Because again, in 23, everyone said that Patrick Mahomes carried the Chiefs to victory. He carried that team to Super Bowl win. And now, when he loses, they're just like, oh, well, this team was never that good. This team got exposed. And it was like, you guys said that this was a top team. This team was going to be undefeated. You came after anyone who said, these wins look a little tough. This is a little too close for comfort. Maybe the Chiefs aren't this unstoppable juggernaut. And it was like, if you said anything shy of the Chiefs, they're a top team, they're amazing, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the Super Bowl, three-peat is inevitable. Like, you just got ripped. It was impossible to have an actual, honest conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs. Or Patrick Mahomes, for that matter. And now, it's so perfect, because Nick Wright, even a couple weeks ago, when Josh Allen, when Spags called that blitz, and he said Patrick Mahomes would have found a better way through that. He would have made a better play than Josh Allen did, even though Josh Allen made an unbelievable play. And who was it that dropped? I think Kincaid or whoever that was dropped that ball. Now here we saw Patrick Mahomes getting pressured. He didn't find a way. He didn't find a way. I mean, what was his way? He threw interceptions. So when you keep getting that biased information, you start to believe it. You're like, well, Patrick Mahomes would have found a way. Well, he had the chance to prove that in this Super Bowl. He was facing blitzes. He did not find a way. Not once did he find a way. But yet Josh Allen gets blitzed in that moment, and you're like, well, Patrick Mahomes would have found a way. Like that, those are not honest conversations. I've been very consistent with the level of honesty that I've attacked all of these conversations. I mean, like, even when Nick Wright made a video, had one of the clips where he said, Patrick Mahomes is majority responsible for this loss. Like I said, I don't think that's true. And I said, he just went up against a better team. He obviously didn't play great, but he went up against a better team. And then I called out, and then I pointed out some of the issues that Patrick Mahomes had. And then people said, you're such a hater. And it's like, dude, I literally said in this clip, Nick Wright himself, number one Patrick Mahomes fan, said that Patrick Mahomes deserves majority of the blame. And I was like, And I actually shot that down. And yet again, I get tagged as a hater. Like, do you understand how ridiculous that is? It's absurd. It's like you can't say anything not positive about Mahomes. You point out any of his issues, any of his the touchdown interception ratio, the passer rating, the game that he played against the Eagles. Like it's just always automatically like you're crazy. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't win this game. It was all because of this and that. It's just such twisted stuff. I have noticed. I mean, like, and it's a real thing. I'm just sharing my honest experience. That it was essentially impossible to have real, honest conversations with Kansas City Chiefs fans. Listen, you're always going to have bias. You're always going to have fandom. That's real, and I respect that. I honestly do. It's not how I interact with the sports world, but I get it and I respect it. And you're always going to have to fight through bias. Okay, I was talking to Detroit Lions fans who said that they were setting up a 5-year dynasty. I got in a whole debate with this one guy who was like, I was like, oh, you know, they really should make a play to improve their defense. He goes, nah, we're not going to mortgage our future. We're looking for the next 5 years. And it's like, they didn't even make it to an NFC championship game. They didn't win a playoff game. So it's like, and you're already talking about having a 5 to 10 year dynasty. Like, that's delusional. That's delusional. I mean, back in like week 7, people were telling me that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to 4-peat before they even 3-peated. Like, that's delusional. I get the belief. I get the confidence. But it was so extreme with the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes. And again, like, this is what I'm going to keep emphasizing, because I'm going to make another Patrick Mahomes video after this one with the herd. Like, if I was a Kansas City Chiefs or a Patrick Mahomes hater, like, I would be dancing. I would be trolling. I mean, look what Nick Wright did when Lamar Jackson loses or when Josh Allen loses. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just pointing out obvious like stats and moments in the game, talking about it, and then defending Patrick Mahomes for the most part. And going into this game and actually going into this season, I said, 3-peat doesn't mean much to me. And you know, I said, if Patrick Mahomes wins, you know, another 3 Super Bowls, it doesn't matter if 3 of them were squished together. And people ripped me for that. And it's like, now that benefits the Patrick Mahomes' legacy. Like, it literally benefits him. I'm telling you right now, I'm just as impressed with Patrick Mahomes if he wins this next season, rather than if he won last season. It's just as impressive to me, man. In fact, it's actually slightly more impressive, because you're not taking advantage of this 3-year window where you were just feasting on teams. Like, now it's showing you that you can win over a longer period of time. It's actually better. So I don't know. I'm interested if a loss like this, I doubt it though, unfortunately, if you start to can have a little bit more honest conversations about Mahomes, about the Chiefs. They have pros, they have cons. Patrick Mahomes is not this unstoppable juggernaut. He is absolutely unbelievable. He is fantastic. I will take him on my team any day of the week. And I do not doubt his greatness. And if you're going up against, you know, a team and there's 1 possession left, you do not want Mahomes to have the ball. And if you're down by 3 and you could have someone to have the ball, you absolutely want Mahomes to have the ball. You know, like that is 100% real. But it's not a 100% guarantee like everybody kept trying to make it. Again, the Chiefs and the media and people like Nick and other people, they were truly just trying to act like that this 3-peat was inevitable. That it was like it was just going to happen. Like it was just like, you know, it was just going to happen. And then they got dominated. I mean, they truly got destroyed. And Patrick Mahomes truly got destroyed. And now he's had 2 games out of his 5 Super Bowls that were just, I mean, just awful. They just were. And that does hurt your legacy, which is why I don't care as much about it, because I don't want to look back. I don't want, you know, 5 years from now, I go back and be like, do you remember in 25 when this happened? Like, because it just doesn't matter as much to me. But when you're forced to keep comparing these 2 quarterbacks, and which is why I said the whole comparisons of LeBron to MJ kind of ruined the whole just, you know, let's just enjoy what LeBron can do for the next 20 years. Because then you're constantly trying to nitpick. And now we're doing it with Tom Brady and Mahomes. But it's like, if those are the conversations we're going to have, well, then we got to have them accurately. We got to have them appropriately. So, you know, we will see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Patrick Mahomes? Has this loss changed your view of him? Has that invincibility bubble popped, as Nick Wright put it? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.